Now, we've provided an introduction and overview of what AI is and some of the key terminologies. We've discussed and introduced what ChatGPT is as a generative AI tool, as well as discussing some of its use cases. But before we really dive into actually logging in and accessing ChatGPT, I do want to take some time for us to consider the version of ChatGPT that we're utilizing, which is the free version. So if you take a look at my screen here, I'm on OpenAI's main website, and I do recommend for those of you who are considering potentially upgrading your subscription of ChatGPT to take a look at this screen here. So as you can see, there are three versions of ChatGPT that we can utilize. We have our free version, which is the one we're going to be discussing today. We have what they call ChatGPT Plus, which starts at around $20 a month. And then they have the Pro version, which goes up to $200 a month. Let's focus in a bit on what we get access to in the free version. So by default, we have access to GPT-4 Mini or 4o Mini. What that means is GPTs are generative pre-trained transformers. You don't necessarily need to know the ins and outs of what a GPT is. We'll talk a little bit more about it throughout the course. But essentially, it is the model or the language model version of ChatGPT that you are utilizing. And there are several different models, and each of those models have particular skill sets when it comes to things like logic and deep research, image creation and video generation, etc. So the base model that you utilize in the free version of ChatGPT will be this 4 Mini or 4o Mini. When you go up to the other levels, Pro and Plus, you'll notice that we have access to other reasoning models or language models. Oops, sorry, here we go. You can see here that there's things like Omni 3 Mini, there's 4.5, etc. In addition to the standard base GPT model, which is 4o Mini, you will also get some limited access to 4 Omni and 4 Omni Mini and some of the more research-based models. Okay. So that 4 Omni model comes standard with Plus and Pro. You do have access to it in free, however, it is limited. Now, there isn't necessarily an exact number of prompts that you can utilize before you reach the limit. Some say it's about 6 to 10 messages in a 4-hour span. I see, from my experience, it's been pretty dynamic. There's been times where I've been able to really get in-depth and executing a ton of prompts before I get that limit. There's been times where maybe it's a bit shorter. So I can't give you an exact number of what that limitation is, but know that what will happen is once you reach that limit on the access to the larger models, it will default back down to 4 Omni Mini. But in addition to that, you still get access to a web searching, which we'll discuss later in the course. You do have some file restrictions and file limitations when it comes to uploading files to a prompt, data analysis, image generation, and voice mode. Oftentimes, these will appear in preview features. So again, especially when we talk about voice mode towards the end of our course, you will see that you get access to the advanced voice mode features. However, it is in a limited capacity. And then once you reach that limit, it'll just default over to the basic option. You can do some code editing, and you can still use custom GPTs that's existing throughout all of the plans. So as you can see, there's actually quite a ton of features within the free version of ChatGPT. So if you're brand new to the world of ChatGPT or to the world of generative AI tools, and you just want to explore, well, number one, this is the course for you. But two, it's also good to know that you have a ton of features and a ton of use cases when it comes to the free versions. As we progress through the course, you'll start to see some of these tools more in depth. And as you're doing so, potentially you might start to consider, okay, do I keep the free version and do I utilize the tools that are there? Or perhaps if this is something that I'm going to be using quite frequently, whether it's having the more advanced models or having the ability to switch between models like you can see in Plus and Pro, or perhaps is that you frequently want to use the image generation tools, file uploading, and even the advanced voice features, and you don't want to have that in a limited capacity, well then at that point you might want to consider upgrading some of the other subscriptions. But I wanted to provide you with this overview of what you can and cannot do in the free version. It'll make a lot more sense as we dive into the course. And now that we've fully gone through our suite of overviews and analysis of key features, now it's time for us to jump into actually accessing ChatGPT and beginning our journey on this incredible, powerful generative AI tool.